Hello everyone, welcome to our channel as we start our recap of The Magicians. If you want to recap or learn more about shows similar to it, check out our previous videos about Merlin and Heroes. Before we begin, click like and subscribe to our channel. Now let's dive right in. Depressed college student Quentin Coldwater is locked in a mental facility as he's asked why he is there. He explained that he and his friend Julia were invited to a magic school known as Brakebills University. While he succeeded, Julia failed, wiping her memories of her enrollment. But she was smart and regained her memories. At the university, Quentin meets his new classmates Alice, Katie, and Penny. They would attempt a summoning spell to find Alice's dead brother Charlie, but failed to notice that they had summoned the Beast, who slayed one of their professors during class. It caused the school to be on lockdown as the Beast causes untold rampage across Brakebills. The dean announced they'll find the student responsible for causing the mess, causing much guilt among Quentin's friends. The group was interrogated by Professor Sunderland, and they gave separate stories in the hopes of deflecting the blame. Meanwhile, Julia meets with Marina, who introduces her to her group, the Hedge Witches, and offers to teach Julia magic. Back at Brakebills, Quentin's group is facing many problems. Penny's struggle as a psychic and Alice's desperation to find her brother. At school, Penny tries to activate his powers when he ends up in Shanghai. He found out from Sunderland that he is a traveler, a magician capable of traveling to any world. Meanwhile, Quentin and Alice tried the ritual to find Charlie one last time, where they managed to summon him. They found out that he was transformed into a Niffin, a being of pure magic. Distraught at her failure, Alice gave up and left Brakebills. The next day, Quentin woke up in a mental facility where he was led to believe that he was being delusional. It was discovered that Quentin's body is trapped in an illusion made by Julia and Marina. Penny and Alice find the unconscious Quentin, forcing him to enter Quentin's mindscape. While he was successful, he was launched out of Quentin's mind by Julia, warning him that Quentin would never wake up again. Quentin meets with Brakebills' dean, Henry Fogg, about Julia, only for the dean to calm his student as their business is not part of the school's. Meanwhile, the school's about to start its latest welters tournament. Quentin is about to train when he hears news that his father is sick. He returned to New York when his father, Ted, told him that he had brain cancer. Quentin was distraught that his father didn't want to be cured and wanted his son to be happy. Seeing his father's final decision, Quentin reveals to him that he is a magician. Later on, the first-year students are tasked by their third-year seniors to pass their own trials. Succeed, and they'll go to the professor of their choosing. But if they fail, they'll be kicked out of Brakebills. Luckily, Quentin's group passed as they transformed into geese, leading them to fly to their chosen professor. Meanwhile, Marina stopped teaching Julia her spells, forcing her to find another hedge witch. She finds an old witch who died from stealing the spells, who is Katie's mother. Quentin and his group arrived in South Antarctica, where they met their professor, Mayakovsky. The professor put them through many challenges, from Quentin and Alice trying to learn mind control to teaching Penny about his traveler powers. Before the challenges end, Mayakovsky confided in Katie that her mother died and she's not welcome in Brakebills anymore. He convinced her to leave the school before they try to erase her memories. Back at Brakebills, Dean Fogg congratulates the students for their first semester as he reminds them that the next lessons will be difficult and encourages them to have study groups. Meanwhile, Quentin and Penny were doing their assignment when Penny's old friend Mike attacked them. Penny managed to stop him, only for him to get stabbed with Mike's dagger. Luckily, Penny survived the attack, but Mike was killed after he attempted to kill Fogg, revealing that he was under the Beast's control. With the Beast still hunting them, Quentin and the gang decided to find the Fillory. They visited an abandoned estate belonging to Christopher Plover, the original author of the book about Fillory. They searched the abandoned estate for a key, only to discover the horrific history of the place, like the death of Christopher's sister, who disturbed his work. They're able to find the key as Quentin believed that Christopher is the Beast. Then, Penny wakes up from a fountain when he finds out that he teleported into the Netherlands, a space between the other worlds. He was being hunted by its residents, led by Eve. He retreats into the library and meets Zelda Sheaf, the head librarian. He pleaded with her on how he can return to Earth, where she explained the nature of the library. She also explained to him about the Beast and gave him information about a man named Martin Chatwin. With the information, Zelda sends him back to the real world. After Penny's return, Quentin and the group decided to learn battle magic in order to take on the Beast. Unfortunately, it would take a decade to master it, leaving them no choice but to find Katie. They found her in Julia's apartment, where she told them about an alternative option, bottling their emotions while learning it. Unfortunately, the Beast assaulted many travelers, sending them to their deaths. It would have happened to Penny if it weren't for Sunderland's help. Meanwhile, Julia and Katie decided to summon a god, with the hopes of defeating the Beast. The next day, Quentin's group decided to find the Beast, only for them to be ambushed, causing Quentin to fall back to Earth. He then finds Fogg for help, revealing to him that Jane Chatwin is alive, who reveals to her that she tried to stop the Beast 39 times, with Quentin dying. She changed the past, prompting Julia to learn magic in another way. He finds Julia and tells her the truth, prompting her to help him to stop the Beast. The duo traveled to the Fillory Fillory in 1942, where they met Martin, who wished to help them. They created a powerful blade said to kill the beast. In order to make it, their senior and friend Eliot has to marry the blade maker's daughter, Fen, to make the blade. The duo meets the god Ember, who will grant the power to hold the blade. But rather than them, Quentin convinced Ember to give it to Alice instead, turning her into a god. Meanwhile, Alice's group rescued Christopher and Victoria Plover from imprisonment, revealing to them that the beast is Martin. The rest of the group traveled to the Fillory's magic source, the Wellsprings, to stop him. Unfortunately, everyone except Quentin and Julia was killed. Quentin flees, but Julia makes a dangerous deal with Martin to kill Renard the Fox, a god who killed her friends and raped her. As Quentin ran away, he encountered a witch in a gingerbread house for help, in exchange for a vial of his blood. Then, he finds out that Alice is still alive and managed to save their friends through her godlike powers. They learned about Castle Whitestone, whose armory contains the knowledge to stop Martin. The group made their way to Coronation Island, where the Knight of Crowns tested them through trivia questions. They answered correctly, leading to Quentin, Eliot, Alice, and Margo being crowned as the High Kings and Queens of the Fillory. But as they entered the castle, the armory was ransacked, leaving only a spellbook. The group returned to Brakebills, where they sought a spell that could stop the beast. Fogg directs them to a former professor named Nini Bigby. She teaches them the Rhineman Ultra spell that can kill anything except the user within 20 meters. Fogg also grants the group their own cacodemons to stop the beast. At the Fillory, Eliot realized that the Fillory is suffering in decline due to the beast's actions, forcing him to teach the inhabitants his knowledge in farming. The group returns to the Pillory, where they discovered that Martin cursed the thrones of the castle, causing them to try to kill each other should they sit on the thrones. Luckily, Penny finds a loophole by poisoning them and bringing them back to life. The group made their way to New York and battled Martin, but it led to Alice sacrificing her magic to stop him. Unfortunately, she became a Niffin and killed Martin with no effort. Then, Julia visits Marina's home, only to find her dead and Renard gone. After the battle, Quentin was badly hurt as he was sent to physical therapy through archery. Meanwhile, Julia tries to find a way to bring Marina back from the dead, and she discovers a book from Brakebills. She was able to retrieve it thanks to Margo, as she and Katie resurrected Julia for a short amount of time. She told them that the spell that summoned Renard can also banish him in the first place. With Alice's apparent death, Quentin gives up magic and works as an office worker. He meets his co-worker Emily. Meanwhile, Penny's hands are incapable of using magic, as he was sent to Mayakovsky to assist him with his problems. In New York, Julia and Katie find out that Julia is pregnant from Renard. She tries to abort it, but is unable to succeed when the doctor who tried to operate on her mysteriously kills herself. That night, Quentin spends time with Emily, and the next day sees Alice, who suddenly vanished. With the doctor dead, Julia and Katie searched for the girl who banished Renard and met Dana, who traps Julia for Renard. Luckily, Katie rescued her before Julia had a new companion, a Haxan-Paxan. At Fillory, Eliot and Margo worked tirelessly in the kingdom when they were approached by the Lorians. They proposed a marriage with Margo, but she rejected it, until she decided to view their kingdom. The Lorians tried to revise it only for her to declare war against them. On Earth, Quentin realizes that the Alice he sees is her Niffin trapped in his body. Later, Julia and Katie became desperate to get rid of Julia's child, so they visited a duo of witches who told them that they had to exorcise her child. Meanwhile, Eliot and Margo discovered that they have no money to pay for their army. The four of them plan a bank heist with Quentin, Penny, and Katie. The bank heist was a success until the exorcism cost Julia her shade, her soul. At Fillory, Eliot ended up in a coma, forcing Margo to talk to a dryad to give their army an advantage. The dryad disagrees with Margo's demands, leaving Julia to help her by offering the dryad her tribute, only for it to destroy her forest, causing sentient plants to attack Fillory. Meanwhile, the group searches for Renard's son, hoping that they'll help him banish his father. Penny sacrifices his soul in the library to find his identity. With the war in favor of the Lorians, Eliot decides to end it by dueling their king, Idri, using an enchanted sword from Fen. Unfortunately, the Wellspring's magic dissipated, causing the sword to fail. In desperation, Margo visits the fairy realm and begs the fairies to repair the Wellsprings in exchange for Eliot and Fen's child. The fairies accept, and Eliot wins the duel. Later, the group found Reynard's son, Senator John Gaines, whom they kidnapped and sent to Brakebills. Upon their return, Quentin decides to learn more about shades, prompting Fogg and Julia cast a spell that allows him to meet an Alice from another world who knows about shades. She told him that shades are found in the underworld, where only the ancient ones know how to access them. Meanwhile, Katie searched the library for a spell that could kill a god, where she learned about a librarian named Harriet who sent her a message that there is a spell book with that spell located in the poison room, a forbidden room containing dangerous spells. Meanwhile, Quentin and Julia enter the underworld thanks to the Fillory button as their offering. They discovered that the underworld is a never-ending resort and found Alice's and Julia's shades. The duo escaped, but Julia chose to bring Alice's shade rather than hers. Meanwhile, Eliot discovered Margo's deal with the fairies when Idri and the Fillorians turn into rats, forcing him to imprison her. Suddenly, Eliot abruptly returns to Earth, discovering that Fillory has rejected him. At Brakebills, Alice is resurrected, but remembers her imprisonment as a Niffin. At Fillory, Eliot's friend and classmate Josh becomes the acting king when Margo needs his help to get her out of the fairy realm. On Earth, Quentin and Eliot search for a way to return to Fillory when they discover that Ember's brother Umber is alive. He gave them his key but warned them that Fillory can't be saved. Meanwhile, Penny and Katie retrieved the god-killing spell, where Gaines sacrifices his life to power it due to his hatred of his powers. They summoned Reynard, and Julius was about to kill him when Persephone stopped her. She reveals to them that Reynard is her son and begs her to spare his life. Julia accepts and in exchange gains back her shade. At Fillory, Ember decided to destroy it out of boredom, forcing Quentin and Eliot to bring Umber back. At first, he disagreed with them due to his brother's chaotic tendencies and made a deal with Martin to fake his death. They brought him to Fillory, causing Ember to get angry and kill Umber. In desperation, Julia channels Umber's essence into a sword, allowing Quentin to kill Ember. Unfortunately, it causes magic to disappear, except for Julia's. With 2 seasons finished, only 3 seasons remain. Always remember to like, share, and subscribe as every action counts. Now, on to the program. 2 months later, Quentin became desperate to find someone to restore magic as his companions were dealing with their own problems. Penny is sick with radiation cancer. Eliot and Margo deal with the fairies, subjugating the Fillorians. And Alice is being hunted by a magical parasite known as the lamprey. At Fillory, Eliot discovered a way to bring magic back after meeting the great cock of Darkling Woods. He explained that 7 keys must be collected, believing it to be the way to bring magic back. For the first key, Eliot, Fenn, their child Frey, and Margo visit After Island on their sentient boat, the Muntjac. They meet the priest, but he doesn't want to part with the key, believing it to protect the island from a monster. The family realized that the monster was the priest who created an illusion about the monster. They managed to grab the key and have the islanders deal with the priest. Meanwhile, Alice's search for the lamprey causes it to inhabit Quentin. She managed to kill it, but accidentally killed her father in the process. At Fillory, Eliot's family was ambushed by pirates who wanted the Muntjac to mate with their boat. Margo asks Muntjac if she'd want to, causing the fairy queen to thank her for her compassion by killing the pirates. But on Earth, Katie and Julia try to save Penny, but end up dying until he discovers that his astral self is still alive. Through his astral self, Penny tries to talk to his friends, but is unsuccessful. He meets another traveler, Hyman Cooper, from whom he learned how to communicate with his powers. The group managed to retrieve the second key from the McAllisters, an old line of magicians who forced the closure of Brakebills University. Eliot and his family return to Brakebills and see Penny's astral self due to the second key's power. For the third key, Quentin and Eliot travel through time to solve the puzzle containing the key. Unfortunately, it took them a lifetime to solve it, leading an old Quentin to give it to a young Jane Chatwick. Then, Margo learns about the key and finds Jane in the Clock Barrens. Margo brings Quentin and Eliot the key before they travel through time. Meanwhile, Persephone visits Julia and discovers that she can still use magic. She warned her that the magic she possessed came from Reynard, horrifying her. With the origin of her magic, Julia transfers her magic to Alice, hoping to never use it again. Meanwhile, Quentin visits the Abyss to find the 4th key and meets a researcher named Poppy Kilness, who gave him the key. Unfortunately, the key causes anyone to become suicidal. Then, Poppy tried to take the key away when Quentin's Fillorian companion, Benedict, was eaten by a dragon. On Earth, Alice tries to create a new body for Penny when she begins to experience seizures. At Fillory, Eliot and Margo discovered fairy eggs all over the kingdom, deciding that they'll use them to blackmail the fairy queen. They were successful in revealing them to the people, but they were dragged out of their carriage due to their failure as rulers. On Earth, Alice is slowly dying due to Julia's magic, and the gang tries to find a way to cure her. Even so, Alice voluntarily gave it up out of remorse. Later, Penny visits the underworld to find the key when he meets Benedict. Benedict directs him to their library, where they meet Cassandra, a writer who creates the stories of everyone's life. The group made their way to the library with the help of a traveler named Victoria. Then, Benedict admits that he has the key because he wanted a friend. With the 4th key secured, the group finds the 5th key in an alternate dimension where a party never ends in their dorms. The key is guarded by a demon who trapped them in the illusion. They were able to escape the illusion by singing Under Pressure together. At Fillory, Eliot and Margo are sentenced to death for their crimes against their kingdom. And when they're about to die, Muntjac saved them. On Earth, Julia discovered that the McAllisters were able to use magic due to their imprisoned fairies. She and Fenn work together to save them by convincing the fairy queen to save her subjects. The queen accepts, as she broke the McAllister fairies' deal and sets them free. At Fillory, Quentin and his team search for the 6th key when a Josh from an alternate universe arrives. Named as Josh 23, he asks for their help to defeat the beast of their timeline due to their lack of magic. The team accepts, and when they fought him, they realize that the beast is this timeline's Quentin, where he was resurrected without his shade. They're able to defeat as Julia gives her shade to the twisted Quentin, who gave up the 6th key and kills himself. Upon their return to their original timeline, Alice talks to Quentin about the possibility of returning magic to the world. She told him that should magic return, his father would die. Later on, the group discovered a magical siphon in the library. Meanwhile, Fillory is experiencing an election to elect its new ruler. Luckily, Margo won and gave the fairies a place to live. As gratitude, the fairy queen gave her the 6th key and a new eye. To find the last key, the group must travel to Castle Blackspire, an alternate version of Whitespire. Upon their arrival, they faced its guardian Aura, who, unbeknownst to them, is guarding an unknown being known as the Monster. During the fight, Alice breaks all the keys, believing the world is better without them. Then, Julia arrives and sacrifices her godly power to restore the keys and bring magic back. Unfortunately, Fogg and Irene McAllister arrived and siphoned the magic into the library. The group's memories and personalities were altered as Alice is trapped within the library, whereas the monster inhabits Eliot's body. After magic is restored, its supply is now rationed. The group now lives different lives, but Katie/Sam managed to bring most of them together. Meanwhile, Alice is still trapped inside the library when an alternate Marina from the 23rd dimension appears and tries to break the spell, but fails. Meanwhile, the monster is hunting Quentin, who is trying to run away from it. At Brakebills, Julia/Kim is currently a student, where she discovered the source of the protective spell that altered their memories. To destroy it, she killed and resurrected herself many times, overloading the magic battery. Her plan worked as she and the rest of her friends restored their memories. Meanwhile, the monster who possesses Eliot is bent on killing his friends as he's prepared to restore his body. Upon their reunion, the monster attacks the group, but Margo stops him and convinces him that they'll build a body for him. Then, the group asked Marina 23 why she helped them when she told them that the McAllisters had put a bounty on them. She told them she'll let them go if they can bring her 5 dewies, valuable magical coins, enough to pay their bounty of 3 dewies. They were successful as she left them alone. Then, Quentin asks Alice if sacrificing his father is worth the cost, and she comforts him that it was worth it. To find a body for the monster, Josh betrays Bacchus, allowing the monster to kill him. Unfortunately, the monster doesn't want Bacchus's body, and it nearly caused his maid, Shoshana, to kill herself. Luckily, they're able to ask her if she can help Julia with her powers, where they discovered that she's a goddess, and Shoshana decided to be her new follower. Meanwhile, Quentin is full of regret that he was unable to visit his father's funeral, where the monster helps him cope by destroying his father's model airplanes. After that, he tells Quentin that Eliot won't come back. Unbeknownst to Quentin, Eliot is trapped within his mind. In the beast's mind, Eliot is living his happiest life when he realizes that he's trapped. He managed to take control of his body, but the beast regained control again. Meanwhile, Goddess Iris orders Julia to kill the beast, but she fails due to the belief that they can save Eliot. Iris kills Shoshana, only for the beast to kill her in retaliation. Later on, Penny and Marina from the 23rd dimension were trapped by a magician named Daniel, who wants to send them back to their original timeline. Unfortunately, Daniel's magic didn't work due to Penny 23 and Marina 23, causing them to escape with his machine. Meanwhile, Alice meets Sheila, and they bond together to clean the city's water. They succeeded as they see the children play together after being cleansed. At the library, Penny is currently working, where he discovered what his friends were up to. Katie destroyed the Modesto branch of the library and led the Hedge Witches in a revolution. Zelda is helping Alice to find her daughter, Harriet, and Fen is having mysterious visions of a woman in a green hood. Later, he passed a test for a promotion and met an unknown stranger in the underworld. Meanwhile, Quentin and Julia visit a dragon, asking for a part for the monster. The dragon orders them to retrieve its elixir, revealing it to be his sperm that was stolen by Poppy. Julia and Katie brought the dragon's egg back, where the dragon tells Julia that she has to restore her goddess powers by finding a binder. Then, a terrorist group unleashed an earworm infection that affected the Hedge Witches. Later, Alice and Katie help Zelda find Harriet in the mirror world. In the world, Alice was accidentally split into 2 personalities. They're able to make amends as she and Julia find the binder and save Harriet. Zelda reunites with her daughter, who revealed to them that Zelda's mentor Everett is the root cause of the earworm infection. At Fillory, Fen becomes the new High King after Margo convinces her to overthrow her so she can save Eliot. Later, Margo lands in the desert, where she starts hallucinating her friends as she searches for a weapon to save Eliot. She managed to find the weapon not before defeating the Foremost and his wife while releasing the spirits they kept. Meanwhile, the group finds the monster, killing another god named Enyalius, who took the last part. It was revealed that Bacchus and his cohorts were once librarians who became gods when they slaughtered the monster's sister into 4 parts. With his machinations coming true, Everett is close to becoming a god, causing many problems in Fillory. Meanwhile, Julia is torn between becoming a goddess or a human. Not before she and Penny realize that they shouldn't ignore their own happiness. The 2 prepare prepare to kiss before the monster took her away. With her capture, Julia is merged with the monster's sister, who voiced her concerns over her brother's feelings towards mortals. Their true plan is to find a spell to kill the old gods and end magic permanently. To stop them, Quentin and his group visited the secret sea, where Quentin and Alice drank its water to stop the twins. At the library, the twins were killing several librarians and were about to kill Fogg when Quentin and Alice arrived and stopped them. They're able to remove the monster from Eliot's body and trap the sister inside a bottle. Unfortunately, Julia suffered a terrible wound, forcing Alice to turn her into a normal human, healing the wound. Then, a man named Goff told them to send the twins into the Mirror World's seam to trap them for eternity. The plan was successful until Everett tried to stop them. Quentin sacrifices himself to save Penny and Alice to stop Everett. After stopping the twins, the library deems Alice as its next leader while Julia gets her magic back. Unfortunately, their actions cause the Earth to be overloaded with magic. Sometime after, Penny and Julia spend the night stargazing when they discover that the Earth is overloaded with magic, causing numerous meteor showers. Meanwhile, Eliot and Margo were shocked when Fillory jumped 300 years into the future with a Dark King ruling it, prompting them to fix it. Meanwhile, Alice missed Quentin so much that she took a piece of his soul and fused it with a golem. At Fillory, Margo tried to save Fen and Josh from their deaths but failed many times. As she realized that she couldn't save her friends and Fillory together, she decided to send them to the future to avoid their future deaths. Meanwhile, Alice's golem came to life, but in the form of Quentin's 12-year-old self. On Fillory, Alice and Eliot made a dangerous trip to the Mountain of Ghosts in order for Quentin's soul be at peace. They faced dangerous monsters known as the Takers, but they defeated them with the help of Sebastian. In the future, Fen and Margo fight at the tournament in order to stop the Dark King. Unfortunately, Fen slipped up and said to Margo that she slept with Josh, causing Margo to angrily defeat her. Later, Alice and Eliot succeed on their trip until they realize that Sebastian is the Dark King. On Earth, Penny and Julia found out that the Earth will be destroyed during the harmonic convergence, prompting them to find a solution. Julia meets with Clarion, who tells her that she can help them if they can turn her into a human. In the Dark Fillory, the trio meets the Dark King Seb as they try to find a way to oust him while Eliot flirts with him. Soon enough, Margo discovered his secret of imprisoning the fairies. On Earth, Zelda meets with Julia and Penny that they can stop the harmonic convergence by moving the moon. They visited a moon cult and must stay awake for 5 days. They also stole a moon rock from a mad magician named Orin. They're able to speak to the moon to move until Marina 23 stops them. The ritual goes haywire until the moon is split into two. Although they stopped the convergence, the magicians failed to stop the apocalypse. Luckily, Eliot and Alice are stuck in a time loop where they try to find a way to avoid the lunar apocalypse. Eliot managed to find a way, allowing him to go back in time where the group planned to steal the moon rock. They changed their plans and stopped the meteor showers without causing the apocalypse. With the Earth saved, the group focuses on stopping a member of the Dark King who is trying to kill all the fairies. On Earth, an evil version of Dean Fogg appears and attempts to fuse the original timeline with his. The group stopped and detained the evil Fogg in Brakebills. On Fillory, Margo, Eliot, and Fen succeeded as the fairies revealed to them that Seb is the one who released the Takers. Then, a group of Takers stole numerous children, forcing Julia and the group to try to assassinate Seb. Unfortunately, Eliot and Alice can't kill him as Eliot has feelings for him, and Alice has come to understand Seb. Then, Julia killed him, but as they leave, Seb suddenly wakes up. It is revealed that Seb is Rupert Chatwin, Martin's son, who tried to stop his violent son by turning him immortal. Martin became angry and cursed his father to sleep for eternity. It is only through Everett's death that he woke up and tried to bring his former lover, Lance, back to life. When he captured Julia and Eliot, he decided not to kill them and asked if they could use a spell to talk to the dead, which they succeeded. Meanwhile, Josh is sent to a world between the living and the dead, filled with Takers. Then, Josh asks Alice and Katie to find Hades, who explained to them that the dead are trying to reach the world of the living. He asked them for their help, which they accepted. Later, the group meets Ember and Umber in a dream, where they explained that the dead will corrupt Fillory and other worlds. Luckily, they built an ark for the Fillorians so they could escape. The group finds the ark known as the Great Seahorse in Umber's home. Meanwhile, Alice recalls the world seed, which was stolen by the couple, and plans to steal it and use it to create a new world for the Fillorians. The group proceeds to steal the world seed from the couple, where they discovered that the couple wished to create a world of their own after being cursed to never have a child. Luckily, they were able to steal the seed. Then, the dead returned to the world as they began their corruption. Zelda sacrificed her life to save the group, and Seb chose to die with Fillory. Accepting his choice, Margo activates Fillory's destruction. Later, Josh, Fen, Margo, and Alice used the world seed to create a new Fillory that is based on their hopeful ideals. But when they're creating the world, they subsequently vanish. Soon after, Eliot begins his career as a professor at Brakebills University. Then, Alice and her group arrived in the world that they created as they planned to release the Fillorians to live in their new home. And that's how the Magicians ended. From Quentin's enrollment to the the arrival of a new Fillory, this fantasy drama has shown how the price of magic is far different than the common tropes we all know. What are your thoughts on the show? Do you think it's interesting? Do you think it should be continued? And most importantly, how do you feel about the overall story? Comment down below so we can know more about your overall feelings. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next recap.